I know, you have to, I guess. So. Yeah, I think we need wine. I need to get myself some wine.
Oh, that's what.
My partner, although I didn't hear it buzz when you pressed it.
Well, no, because it wasn't on.
Oh. He's good. Actually, I called him up. I said, Rabbi, the computer's not here, the microphone, the camera's not here. I didn't know, nobody told me. I said, I don't know where anything is, I don't know what the camera's, what anything. He explained it all to me.
Is it all, you all set?
It's all set, it looks good.
Okay, yeah. I half know how to do it.
I know, I logged it all on, so it's okay. The microphones are on now, they can actually hear us at the moment. Exactly.
I'm learning. Yeah, I do it 1 or 2 nights a week, so.
We get my website list.
Uh-huh.
Those things. 64. Yeah, so, you know. See this. That starts on F.
New carpeting, yeah, and I like the way you think like new carpeting.
Adele,
Hi, how are you?
gonna have crazy weather for your for your dad's yahrzeit. Well, maybe not till the afternoon.
Get everything set.
I called the rabbi, I had no idea what was going on, so I didn't know, so I called him.
I noticed it last night, I noticed the camera was in a different place last night. Yeah, the
so
computer's not on the table.
They're all set up.
I noticed that.
Microphones are on.
The
Say
only
hello to
thing that's
everybody.
different now is you don't have to put the camera on. Everything else
And
is
it
the
looks
same.
good. It has a nice.
Except, I'm wondering, because someone said, did you see me up there last night? It was clear. It was distant, but it was clear. It was what? It was distant. Oh, I'm wondering if I should, if it's better when you're on the demo.
I think so. I'll tell you what,
I
I'll
think
tell.
it might be because the demo areas were clear. And I think in person standing would be better.
I'll tell you what, let me take a look. I think it's open from a different side.
All right, so I'm gonna stand on the demo, and you tell me if you can see me.
Oh, yes, I mean, no problem on the demo. I'm just watching one go to the floor.
Can you see me?
I mean, either one works.
Okay.
The floor works as well.
But you can see both clearly.
Not going back to get a couple of months out.
I'm going back to the consultant. So I think
Whatever it is.
they're,
Howdy, everybody. Good Shabbos to everyone. We're just about there, about 7:59. Well, folks, I'm so glad you joined us this evening. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. And we'll begin our service with a little nigun that we usually do, just to kind of get us in the mood. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. die, die, yai, die, yai, die, 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 2, 3, 4, yai, die, 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 yai, die, 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 yai, die, 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 da, da, die, yai, die, 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 bim, bum, bim, 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 bum. Bim, 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 bum. Bim, bum, bim, 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 bum. Bim, 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 bum. Shabbat shalom. Hey, Shabbat shalom. Yes, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Adele, can I turn the microphone over to you to see what we got for good news in our congregation?
Okay.
Go.
Who has good news?
Looking for good news for this
You
evening.
have to
Lots,
say your name so that the people in Zoom land will know.
lots of hands going up.
Okay.
That's great.
It's Carol Willens, and I'm happy to say that after almost 2 years, I got to see my family in New Jersey, my son, my grandson, my sister, my brother-in-law and nieces, and great nephew, my brand new one. And we just had a wonderful time, and I'm very glad to say that everybody's well and safe.
That's great.
Wonderful.
Esther Kaufman, and we had a wonderful weekend last weekend at our Machatanim's Lake House with our Machatanim and our son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Anybody else with good news?
Well, good news.
Richard Strauss, I have two good newses. Last Monday night, my wife and I were able to have dinner with Esther Yankel, who was in from Australia. She's a young lady that we love very dearly. We had a wonderful leisurely night with her. And then the following night, we celebrated our 52nd wedding anniversary with our Makatonim and had a wonderful leisurely meal. So,
Great. Anybody else with good news? What letter would you like?
I'm Mark Lebarsky, and I'm looking forward to this coming Thursday. We're being invaded by New York. I have son, daughter-in-law, grandsons coming up, and we're going to stay for at least 5 days.
That's great.
Drive them crazy and then send them back to New York.
That's great.
Mark or the boys? All right, anybody else with good news? What's good news to see everybody here? So that's the good news, my good news.
Yes. Great. Thanks, Adele. So with that, we'll begin our service on page 13, although we already began our service. We'll continue our service with the Shalom Aleichem. Feel free to join me. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now turn to page 14 and join me in Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh of Harachaman, Mishach Avdach El Ritzonach Yarutz Avdach Kemo Ayal Yesh Tachave El Muhadarach Yarab Lo Yedidu Tach Minofet Suf Bechol Tam Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Yadadai Dai 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 Dai. Let's read in the bottom of page 14 together in English. Dear God, help us now to make this a new Shabbat. After noise, we seek quiet. After crowds of indifferent strangers, we seek to touch those we love. After concentration on work and responsibility, we seek freedom to meditate, to listen to our inward selves. We open our eyes to the hidden beauties and the infinite possibilities in the world you are creating. We break open the gates of the reservoirs of goodness and kindness in ourselves and in others. We reach toward one holy, perfect moment of Shabbat. And now Lechuna Runner on page 15. Lechuna Ranina, Lechuna Ranina, Lechuna Ranina Ladonai, Lechuna Ranina, Lechuna Ranina, Lechuna Ranina Ladonai. Nariya, Nariya, Letzo Yeshenu, Nikadma, Panav V'todah. Nariya, Nariya, Letzo Yeshenu, Bizmirot Nariya Lo. Lechu Niranina, Lechu Niranina, Lechu Niranina Ladonai. Lechu Niranina, Lechu Niranina. Lechu Niranina Ladonai. Arbaim Shana Akut Bedor, Valmaram Toev Levavhein, Behem Lo Yedu Drachai, Asher Nishpati V'yapi, Im Yavaun El Menuchati. And on page 16, let's do that responsibly in English. Sing a new song to Adonai, acclaim Adonai, all people on earth. For Adonai is great, deserving of praise. Adonai alone is to be revered as God. All the gods of the nations are nothingness. Adonai. Majesty and might accompany God. Splendor and strength adorn God's sanctuary. All families of nations. Glory and bring him tribute. Worship Adonai in resplendent reverence. Let the earth tremble in God's presence. Same world. Adonai is sovereign. God has steadied the world which stands firm. Judges all nations with fairness. Let the heavens rejoice, and let the earth be glad, and let the sea and all it contains exult. Field and forest sing for joy. Adonai comes to rule the earth, to rule the world justly, the nations. Yismechu hashamayim v'tagel haaretz yiram hayamum lo'o. Yalo sadai v'chol hashebo azyirananu kol hatzeyar. Lifnei Adonai kiva lispot haaretz yispot tevel b'tzedek v'yamim be'emunato. Let's jump to page 20 as we do the Song of David, the Psalm 29, and we usually rise for this particular prayer. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei elim, havu l'Adonai kavod, va'oz havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai b'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shoveh arazim, Vayishaber Adonai et azei halvanon, Vayakidem kemo egel, Levanon b'siryon, kemo, then re'emim, Kol Adonai chote lahavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yechol el ayalod, Vayachasov ye'arod, Uvhechalo kulo, Mekahavot, Adonai lamavu yashav, Vayeshev Adonai, Melech leolam, Adonai yozli amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. You may be seated. Now, a fun little song, Lecha Dodi, page 21, we do every other verse. Lecha Dodi lekrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi lekrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamo v'zacho b'dibor echad, Hishmiyanu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah, lecha dodi lekrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nekabela. Migdash melech ir melucha, kumitzi mitoch afecha, Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha, vehu yachamal alayechem la, lecha dodi lekrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela, hitoriri, kiva orek umi uri, shedaberi, kivod Adonai alayek nigla, lecha dodi lekrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela, v'hayulim shisa shosayich, v'rachaku kom mevalayich, Yasis alayek Elohayich, Kim soskatan al kala, Lecha dodi lekrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela, Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha v'tzahala, Tochem munei am sigula, Boi chala, Lecha dodi lekrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. Now we do a song for Shabbat. Happens to be Psalm 92. We'll do it responsively. It is good to acclaim Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God. Music of the lute. Hallelujah. Your works, Adonai, make me glad. I sing with joy of your creation. Your works, Adonai, your design. The thoughtless cannot comprehend, the foolish cannot fathom this. Your enemies, Adonai, your enemies shall perish, all the wicked shall crumble. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree, and they shall grow tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the courts of our God. Even in old age, they shall be ever fresh and fragrant. Rock in whom there is no flaw. And 4 lines from the bottom on 23. Tzadikatama yifrach, ke'erez bavanon yizkeh, shetolim b'veit Adonai, b'chatrot Eloheinu yafrichu. Od yenovon b'seiva, tishenim b'ralanim, yeyo lehagi. Ki Yashar Adonai Tzori V'lo Avla Tabo. 24, and I'm going to look at the which happens to be the psalm for Friday morning. Edotecha ne'amnu mi'ol levecha nava kodesh Adonai liorech yamim. And those in mourning and those observing your tide, please join me in the Kaddish, Mourner's Kaddish on page 24. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shemei rabbah v'alma divra kirute v'yamlit malchute v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'galav v'zman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'mei omaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yadar v'yitalev v'yitalav shemei d'kucha berichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata tamiram bi'oma v'yamru amen. Yehei shlama rava min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav u'ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. If I could ask you all to rise for the Baruch Hu, the beginning of our formal evening service on page 28. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamdara. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch Adonai Elam Haklom Ha'eshu V'Ramar V'Ramacham V'Chazim. I'll do this. Umaviyom umevi laila. Umavdil ben yom ben laila the nights of Shemo. El chai v'kayim tamid yom loch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Please join me on 29, the Ahavat. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amchavta. Torah mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim notanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismak v'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hein chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem negeh yomam v'layla yavatkalta semimenu li'olamim baruch Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Page 30. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol avavcha b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher Anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha v'veitecha v'olechtecha v'derech u'b'shachbecha u'b'kumecha v'kishatam li'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha v'kitavtam al mezuzot beitecha and soundly to the bottom of the page. Lemanye buyemechem vime v'nechem al hadama shenishba Adonai lavotechem latet lahem k'mer shemayim al haaretz Please join me on page 31 with the Vayomer. Vayomer Adonai al Moshe Lemor, Daber el bnei Yisrael v'amata aleihem, v'asu lahem tzitzit, al kanfei v'gdeihem ledorotam, v'natnu al tzitzit hakanah patil techelet, v'haya lachem letzitzit, uritem oto. Uzachatem et kol mitzvot Adonai yasitem otam v'lo taturu acharei levavchem becharei einechem asher atem zonim achareihem leman tizkaru yasitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kiroshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem Asher otzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Amen. Page 32. Umoku Tobraton Kiblu Aleihem, Moshe v'Neshu Lakanu Shira, V'simcha Rabba v'yamru Chulam, Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha neta ba'kodesh, Norati lo, Osei fele, Malchut charu banecha, Bokeyam lifnei Moshe, Ze'eli anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nema kifada Adonai et Yaakov ugalom yad chazak mimenu baruch atah Adonai ga'al Yisrael. Let's read page 33 together in English. Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace and guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace, now and always. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people, Israel, and over Jerusalem. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. I can ask you rise. We sing the Vishamru together on page 34. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti li'olam, oti li'olam, oti li'olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, et hashamayim v'yet haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat l'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et Hashabbat, La'asot et Hashabbat, Ledorotam Berit Olam. Yitkadav, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, the Almighty Rakute, V'amlik Machute, V'chaye, Chon of Yom Echon, Ovechaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, Uvizman Karev Yimaru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Li'alam Olam Me'amaya, Yitbarak, V'yishtabak, V'yitba'av, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shmei Kucha, Rechu, Li'elam, Min Kol Birkatav V'shirata, Tushbekata V'nechemata, Damiram B'yama V'yemaru. Amen. They remain standing for the Amidah. It starts on page 35A or B if you like the matriarchs, and goes through page 38, and then you may be seated. Let's turn to page 38, and we'll do that middle paragraph together in English. We all know the routine. Right before we say the last sentence, we'll sing Oseh Shalom together. My God, keep my tongue from evil, my lips from lies, and help me ignore those who would slander me. Let me be humble before all. Open my heart to your Torah, that I may pursue your mitzvot. Frustrate the designs of those who plot evil against me. Make nothing of their schemes. Act for the sake of your compassion, your power, your holiness, and your Torah. Answer my prayer for the deliverance of your people. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'yemru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'yamaru. Amen. And may the one who brings peace to his universe bring peace to us as well and to all the people Israel. Amen. And before we start with the Bechula, let's just do a little prayer for those who aren't feeling well. And of course, as I'm singing this, feel free to say some names in your mind or mumble them out loud if you will. Mi shebeirach avotenu, mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength to bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu, mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Now, if I could ask you to rise for the Vayechulu on page 47. And please join in with me. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam. Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol malakto asher asa. Vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto kivo Shabbat mikol malakto kivo Shabbat mikol malakto asher bara Elohim asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei avotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon konei shamayim va'aretz. You may be seated. Magei navod bidvaro mitchaye metim b'ma'amaro ha'el hakadosh she'en kamohu hameniach le'ambo b'yom Shabbat kodsho kivam ratza lehaniach lahem kivam ratza lehaniach lahem Lefanav navod b'yirav afachad v'nodeh lishma b'chol yom tamid me'on habrachot el hahodaot adon hashalom mikadesh hashabat u'mevarech shvi'i Umeniach v'kedusha liyam medushnei oneg zecher lemase bereshit. Eloheinu le'avoteinu ritzei v'mnuchateinu mitzvotecha v'techokeinu v'toratecha Sahabeinu mituvecha, v'samkeinu b'shuatecha, v'taheli beinu liyavdecha, ve'emet, ve'hanchilenu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'yahava u'ratzon, Shabbat kodshecha, V'yenuchuva Yisrael Mikadeshei Shemecha Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Yitkadav Shmei Rabbah. Be Amad Yirakutevium Lekmakute B'chaye Chon V'mechon B'chaye Chol Beit Yisrael. Bagalat was Man Karivium Aru. Amen. Yeheshmei Rabbah Meborach. Le'alam Elam Me'omaya. Yitbarak Yishtabak Yitba'avit Mamina Sevita David Alaf Shmei Kucha. Brichu. Le'elam Min Kol Bircha Tavishirata. Tushbakata v'nakamata da'amiram bi'amavi yamaru. Amen. Titkabal slodhon v'odon achoyisro kadam avuhon divishmaya v'yamaru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chaim alein v'alkoyisro v'yamaru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mrom avu yaseh shalom. Alein v'alkoyisro v'yamaru. Amen. And if I could ask you to rise for the kiddush. And of course, we do Kiddush for some of those who might not have the opportunity to do it at home. So we've incorporated that in doing this services. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshel b'mitzvotav ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho v'yavav ratzonin kilanu. Zikaron Amase Bereshit, Ki Hu Yom Techila Lemikra Kodesh, Zecher Letziat Mitzrayim, Kivanu Vachata, Yotanu Kidashta, Mikah Shabbat Kodshecha V'ahava Uratzon Hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat. Amen. You may be seated. So I have an interesting topic for you tonight. I think you might like it. Oh, I know you'll like it. So since we're a couple of weeks away from Rosh Hashanah, I thought I'd speak to you not only about Rosh Hashanah, but a mystical view of the fall holiday season. I'll be quoting excerpts, just so you know, from an essay called How is Married Life? The 5-step holiday program to meaningful relationships. Of course, this has nothing to do with human beings to human beings, but human beings to God. It was written by Rabbi Yosef Y. Jacobson, also known as Y.Y. Jacobson, a well-learned Hasidic rabbi with special knowledge in Jewish mysticism. He asks, why are we here? I mean, humans, that is. He asks, referring to mankind, if God is perfect, as Judaism teaches, what prompted him to create us in the first place? What void was he seeking to fill, if any? One answer provided in Jewish mysticism that God chose marriage. Now, God, you have to realize, is the perfect single, lacking nothing. We say Adonai Echad, of course, God is one, Ushmo Echad, and his name is one. With that said, as unique as God is, by choosing marriage, the one thing he cannot do is get married to himself. Although I have to say, I wouldn't put anything past God. I bet he could figure that out too. But I'm trying to give you a sense of a relationship between human beings and God. Think about Adam, the first man, for example. He was created in the image of God, unique and special in the world, intellectually superior to all creation. But man was unhappy by himself in his own realm. He was alone. Adam needed a companion, a relationship with someone equal to him, to challenge him. So God created Eve, not as a separate creation, but as part of Adam. By the way, it's kind of a little introduction I do for marriages too. Marriage necessitates the existence of someone distinct from yourself with whom to share your life. God chose mankind as his bride. What kind of marriage has it been, by the way? It's been a roller coaster of romance and affection and quarrel and, quite frankly, a little disgust here and there. Yet the relationship has endured because both partners know deep down that they ultimately belong together. When all layers are removed, man yearns for union with God, and God craves for relationship with man. According to the Talmud and the Kabbalah, the present high holiday season is the annual re-experience of the marriage between God and humanity. The 5 primary moments of this season parallel the basic phases of a conventional courtship and union between woman and man, or to be more politically correct, between 2 loving people, okay? First, the courtship. The Hebrew month of Elul, it precedes the high holidays. We're in it right now. Elul began on August 9th this year, by the way. Elul is described as the time when the king goes out to the field to meet with his people, greeting them with kindness and tenderness, displaying a joyous face to all. In our present day slang, we would call it a date. The month of Elul is our date with God. Now, just as the conventional date process allows 2 people to become acquainted with each other in a real way, so too the month of Elul provides us with an opportunity to get to know God in a genuine and profound way. So second is the proposal. God's not a fan of drawn out dating. Neither is he fearful of commitment. So 4 weeks later, on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, he makes his proposal. I'm crazy over you, he says to the children of Israel. Will you marry me? It's the question communicated to every heart of each of us as the sun sets over the horizon as the year has gone by. Now, it's not an easy decision to make for mankind, you know. To be married to God is a formidable task. It means to live with continuous self-challenge, discipline, and mystery. And yet, a whispering voice within persists that if we avoid this relationship, we will deny ourselves the fulfillment and happiness we are capable of achieving in our lives. We were designed to be godly and spiritual human beings. So we tell God, we'll sleep on it. All of existence are brought into being for the sake of this marriage. If we refuse him, the entire creation was in vain. On the morning of Rosh Hashanah, a piercing sound rises from the earth, the cry of the Shofar. It's a simple, unsophisticated cry, expressing man's quintessential yearning to connect with the divine. So we have decided our answer is yes, we're going to get married. The wedding day arrives, Yom Kippur. I know it's not something you would imagine to be a wedding day, but it's a day described in the Kabbalah as a time of oneness in which cosmic bride and groom forge a bond for eternity. In the Jewish tradition, I don't know if you're aware, a bride and groom fast on their wedding day. On the day we unite with God in Yom Kippur, we abstain from food and drink as well. The Talmud teaches us that upon marriage, all the sins of the groom and bride are forgiven. That's why the day is called Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. I don't know if you remember, but in Bedekin or something, if you go up to the bride-to-be, you go up and ask her for special prayers, and it's a very, very holy moment. So the marriage ceremony begins with the stirring melody of Kol Nidre, in which we remove the power from vows and addictions that tie us down. You know, during these profound moments, we attempt to free ourselves from compulsive behavior and negative habits and let go of resentment and animosity, anger and fear. I know it sounds easy, doesn't it? It's not easy at all. That hold us hostage to dysfunction and negativity. So the traditional Jewish marriage ceremony culminates with the bride and groom entering a secluded room called the Yichud room. Comes to the word Yachad, together. They go in together in the room to spend time alone with each other. And I don't know if you know, with some weddings, they actually have a guard, a shomer, stationed outside the room to make sure nobody goes in. It's a minimum of time. They have at least a minimum of 7 minutes, if not more. So Yom Kippur too culminates with the Ne'ilah, or closure prayer, so called because as the sun sets on Yom Kippur, the gates of heaven close, but with us inside. Not in heaven, but here. During the Ne'ilah, every soul is alone with God. It's really a special moment. So when the bride and groom exit their private room, the party begins. We're all waiting for them. From Yom Kippur, we leap into the 7-day festival of Sukkot, described in the Torah as a time of our joy. We are required. It says, "Man simchatenu." We have to be happy on Sukkot. It's required. These days are filled with feasting and ecstatic happiness. Every Jewish family builds a sukkah where they celebrate for 7 days the marriage between God and his people. So now the wedding feast is over. The guests and relatives, they return home. In a consummation of the relationship, bride and groom experience intimacy for the first time. They're alone now. Their lives melded together as a husband and a wife. Hence, following the 7 days of Sukkot, we reach the zenith of the high holiday season called Shemini Atzeret and Simchas Torah. It's a combined day in Israel. For us, we do 2 separate days because of the exile. It's a time of intimacy with the divine. During these 2 charged days, the joy reaches its peak, and God and his people become whole, one together. A divine seed is planted in each of our hearts. That's why we recite special prayers for rain, by the way, on the festival of Shemini Atzeret. Let me ask you, what is rain really? In the midst of intimacy between heaven and earth, procreative drops from heaven are absorbed, fertilized and nurtured by Mother Earth, which in time will give birth to its botanical children. That's beautifully said. The honeymoon comes to an end. The excitement begins to fade. Now the marriage becomes about caring for each other and demonstrating trust and loyalty as husband and wife work through the daily grind of life. You know, out of the 12 months in the Jewish calendar, the only one lacking a single festive day immediately follows the high holiday season. Mar Cheshvan, as we all know, to do. Why? Because this is the time to build a genuine relationship with our marriage partner in our everyday lives. This is the time to discover the joy born out of a continuous relationship with God during the mundane days and nights that define the bulk of our life here on the planet Earth. So I hope this little parable gives you a sense of closeness with God as we approach this upcoming high holiday season. Try to imagine God not hidden away in the solar system billions of miles away, but right here next to you and me. He wants to dwell among us. He's done that before. We just have to open the door and make him feel welcome. Let him back, making this marriage work. Shabbat Shalom. And may we be inscribed for a healthy, happy, sweet new year. We'll be saying that phrase, I hope, for a long time, at least through the end of Simchas Torah and the high holiday season. So we got another marriage that we have to think about. So with that, we'll continue our formal service with the Aleinu on page 51. Please rise. Aleinu l'shavech l'adon hakol, latet gedula liyotzeh bereshit. Shelo asanu kigai haratzot velo samanu kimishpachot ha'adama. Shelo samchokenu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notesh shemayim yosed haaretz. Moshe v'yikaro b'shamayim mima'al shkinatu zo b'gavei miromim hu Eloheinu ein od et mad malkeinu efes sulato kakato b'torato yadata hayom b'hashivota el levavecha. Ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim imal v'yal haaretz mitachat ein od. Kakato b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch li'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar, ve'aya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shema echad. Ushema Echad. And if I could ask you to take your seats for a moment. At this time, we'd like to remember those who have yortzites this week. Rose Traeger Vogel, Melvin S. Levine, Samuel Rader, Joseph Schibel, Sarah Weiner, Arnold Cantor, Dorothy K. Schultz, Sophie Jacobson, Mitchell Kuhn, Irving Berg, Louis Ragosa. Any other names for your site? This time, may the faith that binds us to our loved ones be a continuing source of comfort. As we invite those who mourn and those observing your site to praise God's name with the words of the Kaddish, please rise for the mourner's Kaddish on page 52 for those who are saying it. Yit gadal v'yit gadal shemei rabba v'alma dibra kirute v'amlik malchute v'chaye chon v'yomei chon v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam homei omaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekucha brichu. Le'ela minko birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata. Ta'amiram v'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oser shalom b'mromav hu ya'aser shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. At this time, I'd like to call up Adele Lubotsky, our president, to make a few announcements. Yay, Adele. Well,
Today is, okay, oh, here we go.
yes.
No, today's not this week. All right, anyway, I will just know it by heart, I guess. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you for coming to services this evening. As you can see, things are a little different. We don't have the computer in front of us anymore. The computer is now in the back in the, I don't know what we call it, the old bingo control room, I guess it's called. So the computer's in there. We have new cameras installed. So the cameras are coming from there. So it hopefully when you are, if you are at home, you are seeing a much clearer, sharper picture. So thank you for coming this evening, and I hope that everyone is well. Services tomorrow morning are at 9:30 a.m. Services on Sunday morning are at 9 a.m. And the services in the evening, Monday through Thursday, are at 7 p.m. There is a request for a minyan this Sunday morning and also on Wednesday evening, August 25th. As you know, we are still counting people in Zoom and in person for a minyan. So whichever is your choice, feel free to attend services that way. We have a religious school ice cream social Tuesday evening. We will be outside in front serving individual ice creams to the children and their families. Sukkot movie and study will be held on Saturday evening, August 28th, which is actually coming right around the corner. Also, the sisterhood will be partaking in a program on Zoom with the Lappin Foundation on Monday, August 30th. Please remember, masks must be worn in the building. And as of Sunday, we will no longer be serving food inside the sanctuary, inside the social hall. So Sunday morning breakfast will be suspended for now until further notice. Friday evening onegs will be served outside in front of the building, as will Saturday morning kiddush will also be served outside. It will just be some pickup food, just kind of motzi and kiddush and whatever, but we want people to come. You know, I know that sometimes people come for the company to see each other. We can see each other outside. We can bring some spray so that you won't get bitten by mosquitoes on Friday night. So, and don't forget, tickets will be distributed very soon. I hope you all will decide to come in person or on Zoom. It will be on Zoom, so don't worry about that. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Adele. We will conclude our service with the Yigdal on page 53. Yes, Richard. Oh, I'm so glad you've mentioned that. Thank you, Richard. He reminded me. It's since the month of Elul. We're doing the psalm for the season of repentance. Thanks so much. Let's find the page. Page 80. Thanks, Richard. Page 80. So I'll give you a second to get to page 80. Thanks a lot for that. So we'll do that responsibly in English. Adonai is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear? Adonai is the strength of my life. Whom shall I dread? Those threatened, they stumble and fall. Be arrayed against me. I have no fear. Though wars threaten, I remain steadfast in my faith. One thing I ask of Adonai, for this I yearn, to dwell in the house of Adonai all the days of my life, to behold God's beauty, to pray in God's sanctuary. From peril, God will shelter me beyond the reach of disaster. I raise my head high above my enemies. I will bring God offerings with shouts of joy, singing, chanting praise to Adonai. I hear my voice when I call. Be gracious to me and answer. It is you whom I seek, says my heart. It is your presence that I seek, Adonai. Do not hide from me. Do not reject your servant. You have always been my help. Do not abandon me. Forsake me not, my God of deliverance. And my father and my mother lead me, and I will care for me. Teach me your way, Adonai. Guide me on the right path to confound my oppressors. False witnesses have risen against me, purveyors of malice and lies. Yet I have faith that I shall surely see Adonai's goodness in the land of the living. Hope in Adonai. Be strong, take courage, and hope in Adonai. Kaveh Adonai chazaf yamesh libecha. Bekaveh el Adonai. And then once again, Mourner's Kaddish, those observing your site, that's on page 82. If you want, please join me. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah. V'alma dira kirute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Bagalau v'zman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam omei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ah v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekucha barichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata. Tamiram v'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Thank you. You may be seated. And now we'll conclude the Yigdal on page 53. Of course, we do this responsibly. Yigdal Elohim Chai v'yesh tabach nimtza v'yenei tam mitziuto echad v'yen yachid v'yikudo nelam b'gam ein sof v'achduto ein lo demut haguf v'yen no guf lo na'aroch elai kedushato kadmon l'chol davar asher nira Rishon v'enrich l'reshito hino adon olam v'chol notzar yoreh gedulato malchuto shefar nevuato nitano elan shesegulato v'tifarto lo kam v'Yisrael k'Moshe od navi umabit et emunato Toratem et Natan li'amoel al yad neviyo neman beito lo yachalifo el v'lo yamidato li'olam ni'em lezulato sofer v'yodeya sitarenu nabit l'sof dabar b'kadmato gomer le'ish chesed kimif alo Noten l'rasha ra kirishato Yishlach l'ketzia min neshichenu Lifto mechakeket yishuato Meitim yechayael b'rov chasto Baruch adei ad shem tehilato Meitim yechayael b'rov chasto Baruch adei ad Shem Tehilato. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Please join us in the rear of the sanctuary in our Kiddush room, or whatever we want to call it. Have fun room.